Hello everybody and welcome to my mapping tips video. I've been doing a lot of mapping lately, like I finished 2 completions in the last week. So I thought I would make a little video for some tips on how to get through mapping quicker and a little bit less painful than it can be, especially for those people who really don't want to map but they need the gift of exploration for their legendaries. Hopefully this is going to help you. I'm going to go through a few different options and some tips that I find very helpful, and hopefully it'll make your mapping less painful. So let's just get right into it, and here we go. Something you can use to make mapping easier before you even head out for mapping are consumables. So the one that I see people using the most are spring rolls, and what these do is every time you kill something, they give you 30 seconds of swiftness. So as you're killing things, you're just stacking the swiftness, and I've seen people I map with get up to 5 minutes or more of swiftness, so they basically have perma-swiftness while using these. I only really like to use these on classes that don't already have some way to get perma-swiftness. For example, Warrior, you have so much movement and swiftness already that I don't know if I'd spend the money on these. NGs, you have perma-swiftness as well with speedy kits, but things like Mesmer, if you're not going to do something with runes or sigils, these would be very helpful. And for those of us who don't plan on doing any dungeon speed clear records, we have some metabolic primers. I got these from finishing collections, from achievements, so I have had a bunch of these. I think I had 7 at one time, but I've been using them for mapping. These are very good with the spring rolls because the spring rolls are getting more and more expensive every day. So if you have a metabolic primer and you're planning on doing a full map comp, I would suggest using it with a spring roll, because then you'll have it for 12 hours and you only have to use 1. But then I would say don't AFK on that character. I'm currently doing this on a character with a metabolic primer, and it's pretty painful to watch it tick down when I'm not mapping. Another option for a consumable for you to use is, for someone like me, I need karma. I need it real bad. And so what I use on my metabolic primer, because the karma food that I use is only 20 minutes and I'm terrible at remembering, I use a metabolic primer on my Crock of Chocolate cakes, and then I just get it for 12 hours and I don't even have to think about it, so I get that karma boost. But these are very helpful, and if you do have extra metabolic primers, they will help a lot with extending these expensive consumables. Other options are sigils, like superior sigils of speeds. You can use minor or major as well. Whenever you kill something, you get 20 seconds of swiftness, which is not quite as good as 30 seconds, but oh well, good enough. So these are very helpful as well for adding swiftness. Another option is to use runes. I'm using runes of speed. Traveler runes are better, but they're also more expensive. There's one more, I believe it's the Rune of the Pack, that also does a 25% movement speed boost. And these are helpful on classes that don't have like a utility skill or some sort of trait that gives them a movement and like a movement speed boost. Warriors have a trait. Most classes have some sort of utility slot thing that they can put in, like a signet that makes them run faster. Mesmers unfortunately have just about nothing, so I have used these runes. Another thing that I would say to get prepared and ready before you even leave your city to go mapping are gathering tools. I finally gave in and bought infinite gathering tools. I think that they are worth it for someone like me who is doing a lot of mapping, and it took me 10 map completions to finally give in, but these are so nice. And I would recommend them if you have the gold or the cash to spend on them. Otherwise, I would just say stock up on the highest quality that you can purchase right now and just bring at least 2 or 3 of each for each map that you are doing. I am obsessive and gather almost everything that I run into. My friend that I map with is more obsessive and literally gathers everything that shows up on the mini map. So I go through a lot of tools when I'm mapping. I would suggest getting every node that you run into while you're mapping. It might add a little bit of time, but your bank is going to fill up with so many materials that you can either sell or you can hoard to use later. So I definitely recommend gathering everything. Get all the wood, get all the metal, get all the plants, just everything. Your bank is going to be beautiful and full. Mapping with friends is another way to make mapping a little bit more interesting, and sometimes it can make it go faster. I do notice that I map a little bit quicker when I'm by myself, but having another friend around for some hearts does make the heart go quicker, because what you can do is you can interact with something like what we're doing right now is I'm interacting with a grub, pulling it out of the ground, then we kill it, and then my friend is pulling the grub out of the ground as well, and then we kill it. And it makes the heart go a little bit faster because you're hitting every section or thing twice, so you're getting double what you would get if you were by yourself. It's also kind of nice to have a companion while you're mapping, because then you're just not by yourself silently mapping a zone, hating everything. You can talk with people about what's going on. Maybe they have some tips for how to do hearts faster that you didn't know about, and then it's just a little bit more entertaining to run around as a group and get stuff done. It can get kind of annoying when you have to wait for somebody to finish a heart. It adds a little bit of time, but I do think the companionship is worth the addition of that time. Probably my biggest tip is this right here. I have been so reliant on these, well, I call them my mapping maps. They are maps that someone who was on my old server, Emery Bay, has put together, and she calls it her tour to Waypoint. She used to do tours for people, but I don't know if she really plays anymore. That said, these are still up on the Emery website. I believe they're also on other websites because I have had people link me them, but they haven't gotten them from the Emery site. So I'm not sure where else you can get them, but I always get them from the Emery Bay website, which I'll put a link down below to the exact topic. And you don't have to be registered to see them. You just have to go to the page. You don't have to be logged in or verified or anything to get to this page specifically. So what they are, she has one for every map. Some of them are a little bit outdated because she hasn't really played that much recently, but things like the Lion's Arch map is not going to be correct because she hasn't updated it, but just about everything else is still correct, and it's really nice. There's maps for every map, and what it is it's just a pathway of the fastest way to go through the zone to get everything that's there. And what I always do is I open it up on a second monitor. If you don't have a second monitor, maybe you have an iPad, or you can just alt tab to look at it to double check that you're going to the right place. And I just kind of look at it every once in a while to say, did I do everything over here? It's nice if you are one of those people who tends to forget something while you're mapping, because then you can kind of go through the path and look at it and say, did I get this poi? No, I didn't get that poi. I didn't run up this pathway to get this. And they're really nice, and they make my mapping go a lot faster because it's just like I can kind of zone out and just follow the path and bust maps out pretty quickly, and it's actually really nice to use these, and it's a really handy resource. I definitely recommend them, and again, I'll have the link down below for anyone that wants to go access them. She also has videos for how she does them. I've never used them, but it might be nice if somebody's kind of confused about certain things like a Vista. Another tip is that if you are trying to get your map completion for a legendary and not necessarily because you just want the map completion, then I would suggest trying to set a goal for yourself to do one map a day. Maps don't take very long, maybe an hour, so if you have the time, I would say try to just do one map a day. There's only about 30 maps, so, or maybe 31 counting cities. So if you just do one map a day, you'll get through it probably before you finish everything else for your legendary. So one map a day is really kind of easy to get through, and we'll kind of separate it out for you so that you don't have to be rushing through so many maps at once and just hating everything. So I do suggest setting goals for yourself, because then you can kind of feel good as you're accomplishing it, and maybe it'll make mapping a little bit less painful for you if you really hate it. Another thing I recommend while you're out mapping is to keep in mind the Weapon Master achievements. I haven't gotten very many of them, but while you're out mapping, it's kind of a good opportunity to get some kills for these. For example, when I mapped on my warrior the last time, I mapped with main hand mace. It wasn't exactly the quickest mapping, but I got quite a bit of percentage done on Mace Master. But I do recommend maybe taking a look at them, seeing what you're close to finishing, or something maybe like a weapon, like longbow. Maybe you're mapping on ranger, you could use your longbow, or it's just something to keep in mind. And another thing is that ambient creatures count towards those. So I'm mapping on my mesmer right now, and her main weapon set is going to be like sword focus or sword pistol or something like that, but I do have Scepter Torch on swap, because I can just, like, if I see a bunch of ambient creatures, I can just run over and smack them with my scepter. It's just kind of, if you're running around and you see a lot of ambient creatures, you can pull out a weapon you maybe don't use that often and smack them around. Get some work towards that. What is it? Is it 5 AP? 5 or 10 AP? Just bam. It's just a kind of a tip to keep in mind. Work on 2 things at once, map completion and some achievements that are a little bit harder to get. Something that I like to tell people about when I'm mapping with them, especially in Mount Maelstrom, because this is the main zone that I do this in, there are items you can buy off of the trading post to turn in and just immediately finish the heart. I hate Maelstrom, so this makes that zone so much nicer. It basically takes 3 hearts out of commission just immediately. And what I buy are Alpha Inquest control keys, Volcanic Earth elemental cores, and supplies. And you can turn these into their respective hearts, which I should be showing in the background. And you just walk up to the heart person, you say, hey, I've got these things, and they say, oh, thank you, and you're just done with the heart. So I definitely recommend this. I would say buy a bunch. I'm not sure if Ainit's going to fix the fact that they're not account bound or soul bound. So I would say buy a bunch now for any character you're planning on mapping on. 25 should be good. I buy 50 just in case, but and then just, it makes the mapping of Maelstrom so much nicer. So I definitely recommend these, and hopefully that helps you with that. Another thing is that if you're mapping a zone and you can't find something, and say you're done with the zone and you're like, oh my gosh, I have all but one waypoint, where is this dang waypoint? If you go over to the zone completion and you hover, it'll flash. For example, I haven't gotten this waypoint yet right here. If I hover, it's like, here I am. It's going to sparkle at you. So that's very helpful. Something to keep in mind though is that if you haven't unfuzzed the areas, like most of this zone is fuzzy for me, if I'm like, where are the hearts that I'm missing, it's going to flash the scouts for me, because it's like, you haven't uncovered it yet. We're not gonna let you cheat, but it is going to flash the scouts and tell me that I can go there to clear some areas, and then it'll tell me where the hearts are. So say you've finished the zone, everything's unfuzzed, and you're missing a poi. Pois and waypoints always blend into the maps. They're so hard to see sometimes, so you can just hover and it'll sparkle for you if you've already uncovered it. If you finish the zone and you notice that there's a fuzzy area and you're still missing something, that's probably where I would suggest going, because most of the time that's the area that you're missing. Very few maps have areas that will stay fuzzy when you finish, but a few do, so something to keep in mind. But this is very helpful because it is very noticeable, and I'm not sure if this is a new feature, but it's really nice. Thank you for watching my mapping tips video, guys. I hope that it helped you, and that now your next mapping will be a little bit less painful and maybe a little bit faster. So enjoy, and let me know down below if there's anything I missed, or if you know of any more purchasable things that help with hearts to make them go a lot faster, since some hearts are pretty annoying. So let me know in the comments if you liked this, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!